financial services industry. So, how are we solving it? And that is a curated investment and financial education platform. A platform where we connect vetted mentors to our users. A platform where we can equip our users with tools, which we just launched the quizzes. There's more tools to come. A platform where you can connect with other like-minded individuals, other investors. A platform where you can execute what you've learned. We want to bridge the gap between learning and doing. Because education without execution is risky, but education without execution is worthless, but execution without learning is risky, because you don't know what you're doing. So we need to bridge that gap. That's what we also are doing. So, in our solution, if you download the FinMeUp app, which most of you already have, you'll see that where we are today. But where we want to be in 1 year is very, very exciting. So, in 12 months from now, basically, if you need anything financial, we got you. Financial advisors, home loans, investments, insurance, wills, you name it. So with trusted partnerships, we've been able to build that, and it's very, very close to being there for you. On the education side, we'll have the coolest financial education app in the world within the next year. Our team is very, very innovative, and I'll bring them in the light just now. And we work very hard, and we are very passionate about what we are doing. But FinMeUp, like Paul always says, FinMeUp is for the people, by the people. We are a community-based platform with a big vision, and I really want to thank all of you that are here, because you are now part of this community if you weren't before, and we're going to make a lot of things happen. I can't tell you all the things we're working on, but it's very, very exciting. So yeah, that's basically what FinMeUp is. We're going to dive deeper now with the mentors. So some of the mentors on the app are here. To think that, so we still have a lot to do, but let's just take a moment to celebrate where we are now, celebrate the small victories. Not only as a company, but as a community. We started as a dream in 2020, 2019. We are now an app user base of more than 9,000. We are a community of over 60,000. We've got over 20 mentors on the app, on the platform. We just launched FinMeUp Financial Advisors. We've got you participating, and we've got lots of cool features launching soon. We've got the quizzes now, and I know they are very, very excited about it, because there's already been a massive adoption on that. So if you haven't played the quiz, you're missing out. But we need to celebrate the small victories, not only as a community or as a company, but even in our personal lives. How many of you started investing? Just by the raise of hands. I mean, ask that same question 20 years ago, I doubt the answer would be the same. So just the fact that you've started already puts you in the next level. And we're going to make this journey as smooth for you as possible. We are very far away, but we're going to get there. We're working very hard. And I just want to take this moment to thank a few people. Thank you for Specno for these awesome offices and for the space. I want to thank my team, Paul, our financial guru, Jonta, our community manager. He put everything up together. And Isaac, our newest team member, who's our tech wizard. He basically put the quiz together in less than a month. So anyway, if you enjoy the quiz, you need to thank him. And also I want to thank you once again. Thank you that you're here. I know there's giveaways coming as well. Tobias will announce that soon. There's an Instagram post, so you can post that, you can play the quiz, enjoy the evening, and afterwards enjoy the networking. We're now going to have Sol and Anthony and Carly from EasyEquities to just talk about all things finances and investing. That's what we stand for. So it's an exciting journey. I just quickly want to introduce the team, so if you don't mind coming forward. We are now a full-time team of 4. We are a full-time team of 4. We are the full team of 8, but we are full-time. So Paul is, like I said, the financial guru. John is the community manager, and Isaac is our tech wizard. And I know they quickly want to announce some cool things. So let's start with you, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Higgo. Yeah, guys, so firstly, all I can think about is the quiz. So if you haven't played the quiz, that's all I've been working on for the last month or 2. But anyway, so my name is Paul. I'm officially the content creator, one of the content creators on the FinMeUp app. So if you see an article by FinMeUp, I am FinMeUp. Okay? A lot of people have asked me, Paul, I see you working on all of the stuff, but I never see an article by you. I only see LinkedIn posts once a week. But I'm FinMeUp. But anyway, so. Working for a startup, you actually do a little bit of everything. I've been a tea lady, I've been standing CEO when Higgo was on leave, I've been a content creator, I'm now a quiz creator, I might have been a developer as well. I don't know how to put my computer on, but anyway. So the big announcement is, from my side, is we're launching FinMeUp Financial Advisors,
Launched.
We launched it already. Yeah, so I'm super excited about that. Basically, not everyone has the time or expertise to manage their own money, And FinMeUp's vision is to bridge the gap between education and execution. We want you to execute, but if you can't do it yourself, and a lot of people, like I said, if you're an engineer, I want you to be the best engineer in the world. I am attempting to be one of the best finance. So that's my 85. It's all I think about. My friends often tell me, like, Paul, can we talk about rugby for 5 minutes, bro? Like, we can talk about finance for 2 hours. Because, yeah, I can talk for hours, but the point is, I love what I do, and I'm very good at what I do, and I actually want to help people. It's not a zero-sum game. You can make money, I can make money, and we can all build wealth together. And it's not about the money, it's what the money allows you to do. It allows you to dream, and all of that. So, if that's you, if you love finance and you're interested in investing, but you want to be the best at your job, and you're going to leave that to someone else, come talk to me, and just sign up links, and then I'll try my best to make money for you. I promise insane returns over a very short period of time.
Clown of us as well, so we do admire and adore Paul as well. So firstly, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. It's really an evening we've been planning for some time. It's an evening we couldn't wait for, so we're very excited that it's actually here. So the quiz you can download by any of the QR codes around the office. Just scan any of these posters. They'll take you to the App Store. Paul will be happy, and we'll see some great results. But I think that is the first start of this gamification journey that we're going to go on with FinMeUp. It's also the first part of this bridge that Paul referred to, that gap between education and execution. So the last few months, we've been stepping into the office with either Paul sitting behind a spreadsheet, gathering questions, making sure that there's enough challenging, but yet also opportunities for everyone to participate in the questions. And then I've seen Isaac on the other side doing crazy dev wizard work. So again, I really want to commend the fact that this quiz is alive in the first month. It's the first of gamification. So please stay tuned. This is literally the start of not only the quiz, the gamification, but the first of an event series as well. So more over to the gamification.
Hi guys, my name is Isaac, the developer, as you've all heard. So there's been a lot of talk about the quiz. We're very excited about it, but it wasn't as we thought it would be. So there's a lot of things that have gone wrong. So throughout the journey, because initially what we want to do is to make sure, like, of course, bridging the gap between knowledge and execution, but normally the people of my age, the millennials, of course, and the Gen Zs, when people talk about finance, when they think about finance, they overcomplicate things, and of course, that's one of the main reasons why FinMeUp exists. We want to make financial knowledge accessible to almost everyone, and for people to have control of their finances and be able to do whatever they want to do. So the quiz, we thought of it as a way of enhancing your knowledge. You can test, because we can't make like at the end of every article we put a questionnaire. So we thought, what about every day you wake up in the morning, you play like 5 questions, that will be testing your financial knowledge. Then at the end of the day, you can compare yourself with friends and others to see like how do you rank. And of course, as part of this gamification journey that we'll be going on to, I don't know if I'm going into the phase where I'm announcing things that are not yet.
You just heard what Daniel said.
So there's a lot of features, FinMeUp tokens coming soon. I didn't say it. So there's a story that I wanted to say where things actually went wrong. So today is the official announcement where we are releasing the quiz feature. So you get to be the first to play it, but it didn't go as planned. We released it on Monday, and we just started seeing an uptake without announcing anything. And now if you go on the app, you see on the leaderboard, people are already playing, people are already competing. So it's true that if you're not playing it, you're really missing out. So we wait for you to download the app, play the quiz, and it's just one tip of the iceberg, and more is coming.
Thank you so much, Higgo. And as we heard, FinMeUp really is doing some cool stuff, bridging the gap between implementation and, he said, there's a very powerful phrase that I've written down here. He says, there's the risk. It's around risk, and it's around, remind me again, Higgo?
Education without execution.
Yes, it's education and execution. Thank you for that. So education without execution, and I hope you all have your notepads out. And not a lot of, my notepad is almost full, right? So education without execution is? Education without execution is?
Worthless.
Yeah. And execution without education is? Risky. So as we heard from the FinMeUp app, they're launching some cool features, and the quiz, as they've said, is out already. So if you haven't downloaded the app, download the app, and you've heard that the leaderboard is already going on, right? And if you're yet to download the app and then participate in the quiz, it's going to take you quite a while to get up on the leaderboard. So do participate in that quiz. We do have prizes up for people who shift up on that leaderboard. We were giving away 1,000 rand EasyEquities voucher for people who move up the quiz, and we're also giving away 1,000 rand EasyEquities vouchers for people who take pictures at our stand there. The instructions are already on the board, and so please take pictures, and the hashtag is hashtag FMU Money Matters. That's hashtag FMU Money Matters. So John Tay is displaying there on the cardboard. Take some pictures and share on our social media platforms on FinMeUp. Now we're going to move over to the panel discussion. We've got some experts that are going to be joining us on stage, and we're going to be talking a lot about money matters. We're going to be getting some insights on what financial freedom is and how can we then take money matters into our own hands, taking matters into your own hands. So I'm going to ask our panelists to come up, and I'll introduce them as they take a seat. So panelists, please do come up. Round of applause for our panelists.
In case you're wondering what's in here, this is my bag of secrets. It never leaves my side.
Bag of secrets, secret society, it's booming. So I'm going to start on the far, my far left, your far right. There we've got Higgo, who just spoke to us as the founder and CEO of FinMeUp. He's also a musician and an adventurer. So thank you for joining us on this platform. Round of applause for Higgo. Second on our panel, we've got, apologies there. So second on our panel, we've got Anthony. Apologies, technical difficulties.
Anthony is a drummer.
It's a band. I'll give the intros a bit later. Apologies for that. I've missed it on my notes. But we've got Anthony.
Yeah, let him do their own intros.
Yes. Anthony, please do introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, hello all. It's nice to be here, and thank you for asking me. My name is Anthony Clark. I'm Small Talk Daily, but I don't really am seen by anybody. My main role for the last 30 years has been an institutional equity analyst servicing the largest pension and fund management companies in this country. So I actually don't do many events like this because my main audience are the people where you invest your own money. Alan Gray's, Coronations, Sanham's, etc., etc. And when Higgo asked me quite some time ago to become a mentor, I actually initially declined because my work is not really tailored towards the private client market. Then I suddenly thought about it and I thought the only way that today's young investor can actually become tomorrow's entrepreneur and wealth generator in this country, a country we all love, and I've been here 30 years, is to actually educate people like yourselves to actually invest in the future of this country. You know, the stock market when I started this career in 1996 had 803 companies. We're now down to just under 230. If they keep disappearing, I have no job. Your savings will be investing in companies. So my job is to educate people towards what's going on in my space, small to mid-cap universe, food and agriculture, to hopefully advise you where to invest, what companies to look for, and more importantly, how to mitigate risk going forward in investing in those areas.
Okay, so most of you know me as Sol, and please call me Sol. My mother calls me Rochelle, and it always means I've done something wrong. So full name and surname when I'm in trouble. So I started investing 14 years ago. A lot of you know the story when my daughter was born in the heart of the global recession. She was born 31 June 2008. The year we all want to forget. The year everybody who was an investor back then wants to forget. So I started investing because I really wanted to create something for her. I didn't want her to start on a negative. You know, a lot of people say, I started at zero. No. People who look like me and come from where I come from, we start on a negative. And we stay on a negative because of that beautiful thing called black tax. Okay? So I wanted people to see someone like me who grew up in a shack, Bishop Lavis, on the Cape Flats, make it all the way into Parliament, speaking in front of ministers. Recently, almost became CFO of a JSE company, but declined. But you know, I want people to see that it is possible. It is possible to start from a shack and make it to being an investor. I heard a horrifying statistic the other day that outside of our pension funds, people of color own only 3% of the JSE. If you include our pension funds, we own 23% of the JSE. I'm not okay with that statistic. So for as long as I breathe, you guys are gonna listen to me nag about investing. And I will make investors out of anyone that crosses my path. That's my passion. There's no such thing as a dumb question. You know, I will answer any question that you have if you want to reach out to me. I don't have Anthony as my mentor on FinMeUp. I don't know if he knows, but you know, I don't have his experience. I don't maybe have, you know, Higgo's talents and passions, but just having the privilege of surrounding myself with the people in this room, I literally have goosebumps.
Is this on? No. How am I going to follow that? Guys, I'm Kylie Barnes. I am EasyEquities Global Brand Goddess. That's my official title. And yeah, I don't think any of you can probably guess what I studied. Can you take a guess?
Something in the hall. Something in history.
Damn it, you're so close. I studied music. So I actually wanted to, Higgo, we must talk. I actually wanted to be on Broadway. Beyonce was just going to move over. That's what was going to happen. And about 6 years ago, I started investing. My dad kind of tricked me into it. He said he would only give me my Christmas money or my Christmas presents if I used a 50 Rand EasyEquities voucher. He was like, this is your gift. If you actually invest this, you'll get your Christmas present. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. I was like, I have shoes that I need, so let's do this investing thing. And literally it changed my life. Just that moment, my first share that I bought was Pick and Pay. And I just suddenly went from being someone who knew nothing about it, who had no sort of savings or plans for my future, to feeling really empowered and really capable of doing that for myself. And I started working at EasyEquities not long after that. And what's amazing to me is the journey I've been on, not just on my own journey, but through the community of investors that we've grown. From when I started, there were about 30,000 people. We now have 1.6 million investors on our platform. And it's through you guys and your stories that I've learned. I've learned more about investing from our community than I have in books, but we didn't have FinMeUp back then. So now you've got that awesome tool. So yeah, and here I am today. I have an awesome portfolio that I'm really proud of. I even beat Charles Savage, the genius CEO of ours, at a game and investing. Just little old me who is going to be on Broadway. So if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Thank you so much to the panel. And really, there's a diversified, background in terms of where they come from professionally and how they got into investing. And so we're gathered here to talk around all things investing, all things money matters. And we've heard a bit from Anthony and also Saul and Carly around, how they started with investing and the backdrop being financial freedom. I think to kick the conversation off, Higgo, maybe explain to us, what is financial freedom?
That's probably when you can have a braai on a Tuesday evening with no worries. I think for everyone it's a different answer. For financial freedom, for some it's being debt free. For others it's having an island. So it's a personal matter, but it's just getting to a point where you feel comfortable with your finances without having to stress and having nightmares and all this constant worry about finances, and knowing that you can, provide for what you need to provide. So obviously as you grow older, you need to be able to provide for family, later for kids, like I'm not there yet, dogs maybe, whatever, but there's always financial responsibilities. And the sooner you start planning for those responsibilities, the better, because they are going to come and there's always going to be stresses. But why give me that question in the first place? But secondly, financial freedom is different for everyone. It's just, I think the best way to go around it is make a goal for yourself. Like, I view this as financial freedom. It could be a set number, it could be a certain situation, and you chase that. And once you get there, it's important to celebrate the victories, even along the way, because I think so many times we see this big dream and we forget about the small victories we make, other than just, celebrating when we get there. For example, just starting to invest, that's a milestone. Let's say you start to investing in your account with 10,000 Rand, getting to 20,000 Rand is a milestone. So celebrate the small victories and just keep going.
Thank you so much for that, Higgo. And highlighting the importance of getting started. And of course, it's always a personal journey. And I want to link this to what you said earlier on. So you spoke about the fact that you started investing when your daughter was born in the heat of the financial crisis, and you decided to get started. I'm curious to find out a bit about what some of that early journey looked like, right? What are some of the questions that you had in that early start? And what are some of the insights that you wish you'd had early on before then moving on?
The first thing I want to say is it was very lonely. I don't think people have any idea how lucky they are to have social media, to have a platform, to have Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, an app like FinMeUp. It was very lonely doing it on my own. Firstly, I always say we didn't discuss finances around the dinner table. We didn't have a dinner table, okay? So my parents taught me how to save, but they didn't know what investing was. So the journey was very lonely at the beginning because I made a conscious decision. Some of the ladies asked me earlier, what would I have done differently in my 20s? Because my daughter was born when I was 29, so it was into my 30s. And I made a lot of reckless decisions. I drove the GTI, yes, I'm a colored. I drove the M3, I have the fines to prove it. There's a lot of stupid decisions I made in my 20s that I want to prevent you guys from making, because that's what a mentor is about. A mentor does fast tracks your journey. We don't want you to make the mistakes that we made. We paid the price. Why do you want to pay school fees if we already paid school fees? We are telling you, don't go there. Do not replace your car every 5 years if you can invest that money. So it was very lonely because I have properties, but I've also lost properties. I made stupid financial decisions. I didn't have someone like Higgo or Anthony to reach out to. There are other people on the app like Carly, etc. There was nobody. I was doing it on my own, and that was the one thing. It was lonely. I discovered, the Fin Twitter community and the Fin Talk community, the Money Talk community, only, during lockdown when I was very, very bored. I was done talking to my wife and my child. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need someone else to talk to. But navigating finances is so complicated. Higgo made the example now that financial freedom looks different to everybody. And that is true. I call it, we have the FIRE principle, financial independence, retire early. I've replaced the retire early with recreational employment. I will work if I want to work. It must be fun to work. It must not be compulsory to work. So I want to be able to pay my bills, but do what I love. And if I could do this forever, I am never stopping. I am never going to stop working. If I could teach people and mentor and coach and train on finances and personal finances for the rest of my life, I will never stop working, and it won't feel like work. So the thing that drove me, honestly, was I had a human being, like a whole person with feet and toes, and like a head and everything. So that was like, I needed to build something. I went into building mode when she was born. And I navigated it myself, and I found this community along the way, and now it feels like I'm just giving back. The people who have invested in me, I feel like I can't give anything back to them. So I need to train the next generation of investors in order for me to make an impact, because they already know what I know. So I need to pass it on. I have this thing where I tell my mentees, anything I say to you, anything I teach you, any document I share with you, share it with, spam your people, teach anybody who wants to know. This is the only way we're going to win the war on poverty, is through financial education.
Thank you so much for that answer, Sol. And I really like the fact that you thread in the fact that the work you do speaks to financial freedom and how you want to achieve financial freedom through that. Highlighting some of those earlier mistakes around there not being a community, which Higgo spoke about earlier, that the financial world doesn't have many communities, and that's what's being built here with FinMeUp. And I'm interested, Carly, to hear from you then, how, now that you know what financial freedom is, you sort of know what it looks like somewhat, but now I'm asking myself, how do I get started? Like, where to from here? What are the practical steps that I need to get started?
I think just getting started is your first step. Definitely for me, investing was my first step. I didn't have an emergency fund, I didn't have a savings account, I had none of that stuff. But just starting to invest really made me understand money and understand businesses a lot more. And so that kind of snowballed, and from there, I maybe did things backwards. I know a lot of people start with an emergency fund, and I know that that's quite a common recommendation. For me, it was the opposite way around. I was going, okay, this is what my money can do for me. This is how it can actually work for me. I'm not working for it, it's working for me. And it just changed my mindset. So from there, I built a little emergency fund. I managed to start paying off my debts. And so, it's always a balancing act. I don't think we can crack it in, there's no recipe. I had to use some of my emergency fund this month because my cat got really sick, and that's expensive. So, things happen, life happens, and I think at different phases of your life, that recipe is going to look a little bit different. But the point is just start. Just start, because even if you don't think you know anything right now, trust your gut. You know a lot more than you think you do. And there are tools and resources that can help build your knowledge. And as you're building your knowledge, you build your confidence, you build your understanding, and you just become so much more aware of the possibility of what your money can do for you. So just start. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Just start. Practical. Just start. Anthony, with that in mind, right, a lot of the work that you say you do is to educate others to not make some of the mistakes that were highlighted earlier. And I'm sure every investor makes those early mistakes, right? Now let's say I've then committed to start. I'm now going to invest in a company on EasyEquities. I've identified a Pick and Pay, like Carly has identified. What is it that I should look for in that Pick and Pay in order to know that, am I doing Pick and Pay? Am I doing Absa? What are some of the things that one should look out for before making that investment?
It's actually a great question. One of the most common direct messages I get on my Twitter account is from people who've bought a stock, and they say, what's your view? And my first question is, why do you buy the stock? And the general answer is, well, we just saw a tip somewhere, or somebody just recommended it. And I say, well, have you done any research as to what this company actually does? Do you actually understand the company's underlying dynamics? Why did you buy it? Oh, we think it's going to go up. And I'm saying that's not the case. We all on this panel probably learned from the school of hard knocks. I first started investing for myself when I was 14. And for the first 3 years, I did extremely well investing in the UK stock markets. And then one day I decided to short a share, which is to sell something you don't have, hoping to buy it back at a cheaper price. Except the share didn't fall, it went up. And I lost every single cent that I had made, or pennies that I had made in 3 years. And you often learn by your mistakes, and you learn to tolerate and understand the value of risk. And the other significant thing that I get from people, again, on my social media platform, is people don't understand risk. I think during the run in the bull market we've had in the last 2 years, people thought it was very easy to make money by just buying and hanging on. And then things turned turbulent, beginning of this year, the Ukrainian war, what's going on globally currently with a recession, amongst other things. And it isn't as easy now to actually make money. But I can tell you as an institutional analyst whose prime role is to find ideas for the largest fund managers in this country, I find them on a consistent basis. And the basis is you have to have the best information. That comes from actually doing the hard work, which is going out to meet the companies, reading the financial statements, kicking the tires, and understanding what the business actually does. So not just saying to Anthony Clark and so, well, I bought this company, why is it not going up? There's always a reason behind a transaction. You mentioned Pick and Pay. They came out with results a few days ago. The share price was down 9% because the market didn't like the fact that the core Pick and Pay business was doing badly, but Boxer, its low-end business, was doing extremely well. So in that case, it didn't do that well. Another example recently is Murray & Roberts. Murray & Roberts went from 10 rand to 14 rand because it had a huge order book. The market went mad. It's the next hot thing. Construction's going to be amazing. Not in this country, but internationally. In September, had a fantastic investor day. Everything was roses and wonderful. Everyone was raving about the stock. 6 weeks later, they came up for profit warning. The share price fell from a high of about 11 rand to 3 rand 86. Purely because things can change that quickly in an international environment. If you don't understand the companies that you're investing in, you're hiding to nothing. So my single biggest area of comment to any young person looking to invest in the stock market is one, read. I read the Business Day newspaper every single day. I love reading old-fashioned things. The Financial Mail every week. Online blogs from people like what EasyEquities puts out, and some of the others out there. Some extremely good commentators and content creators on social media who generally do it not because they're selling something, but doing it because we actually love what we do. As I said, my main role is an institutional equity analyst. My job is to not do what I'm doing for you. I do it because I want to give something back, because it's the right thing to do. So my main tidbit from this segment is you actually have to read every single day and understand what you're doing with your money. So if you're just blatantly just buying something because you've seen a hot tip that lithium is the next hot thing, then you know what, you're probably not going to make any real money. I often put on my social media page the written reports that I have done. Often we're a few days old because my clients have to get them first, but they pay me first. But the underlying information in those reports is institutional quality research, which you would not ordinarily get as a member of the public. And I try and relay things in a fairly straightforward fashion. So one of my recent recommendations was Grindrod. Now the stock fell recently down to £8.18 on the back of a on the back of a Rembrandt unbundling. And I knew the stock would fall because of the liquidity event. As I stand here today, Grindrod's at £9.63. In a week and a half, you made 20%. It's all about knowing what is going on in the market, and more importantly, about timing. So if I leave you with anything, read and understand what you're buying.
Thank you for that, Anthony, highlighting the importance of really doing the deep work, right? And not finding some quick tidbits online and stringing this together.
The quick tips, Jenny, always end up losing you money.
Yeah. And on that note, Higgo, I'm interested to find out then, I'm sure you've made some mistakes in your journey. What are some of the biggest losses that you made in your investment journey?
So I'll break this into two parts. So I think the biggest mistake, not only in investing but in life, and I think we all make it at times, is reacting on emotions. And the thing with investing, the market is determined by emotions. It's people buying and selling. And usually when people sell, it goes down, which is like what we are seeing now, bear market. And usually when everything's going up and it's at the top, everybody wants to buy now because shares make money, investing makes money. But when it's going down, all of a sudden Warren Buffett quotes don't count anymore, where fear when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. All of a sudden we all forget about that. And it's all about that staying in control, because the same thing when you see a hard tip. So on FinMeUp we have stock picks, but those stock picks are for insights. It's providing users with access to easy to understand companies. That's the goal of it. So you are going to see these research tip notes, hot tips, whatever you want to call it, but you should always do your own research. So I think when you don't do your own research, you don't completely understand something. When you don't understand something, you're going to react with emotions. When you react with emotions, you're going to end up in regret. So when things are going up and everybody's buying, you're going to buy high. When everything's going down and everybody's selling, you're going to sell low. And that's how you lose money. So when you invest in something, when you do something, understand what you're doing and stick to the plan, stick to your original research. And it's easy to fall back on research, it's difficult to fall back on emotions.
Thank you for that, Higgo. Really highlighting just the importance of consistency, right? And I love what you're saying around, it's almost like when we are in an emotional state, highly charged, we forget all of those principles and all of those things that we've learned, right? We have underlying knowledge, but then when you're in an emotional state, all of a sudden it just goes away, right? Which brings me to my next question to you. So I'm sure you've really had over the journey of your investment experience some good investments where you're like, that's why it's low. Tell us a bit about those and how then the emotion factors in and how the consistency factors in those high moments where you're actually winning.
So there are two emotions in the stock market. The one is FOMO and the one is panic selling. So the fear of missing out. That is when you buy high and sell low. You can ask my mentees, I'm very blunt. I always say the stock market has this rule that you buy low, you sell high. If you buy high, where do you intend on selling? Higher? Did you just make up a new rule? There's no such rule. So you're making up stuff when you FOMO, okay? The panic selling is when something drops and you've done nothing what Higgo and Anthony just said. Because if something drops that I truly studied and I believe in, I'm doing a happy dance while somebody who doesn't understand that business is having a panic attack. I am like, I can't wait to get paid so that I can buy more because I understand the business. I cannot believe Nike is trading at under $150. I'm like having the time of my life. And and that is why it's that's the one thing I also really want to say tonight is, before I get to my really good investments, before I brag, the one thing I want to say is, honestly, make your own decisions. You know, get the tips, get it from wherever you see it, but just take it as that. Respect the money that you work for. You know, I don't know what you sacrifice for the money that you work for. There's an opportunity cost to your salary, to your income. It could be time with your babies, it could be time with your partner, with your pets, with your hobbies, your passions, your family. You're giving up something to make money, and then to disrespect that money so badly that you take a stranger on the internet's word and you blindly invest it. That is disrespectful to the person in the mirror. And that's why I will never tell people what to buy. I will tell you where to dig. I will help you where to look. I'm looking here. I might come to the conclusion that I can invest $1,000. You would be like, no, I'm only cool with $10 or $100 because I'm not sure yet. We are both right because it's right for you, okay? So I made some amazing investments in 2008, 2009. When I started, I didn't have as much capital. So, you know, some of the great investment that I made was probably Discovery. I'm very pissed off with Discovery at the moment, by the way, for not paying dividends. But it's still one of my absolute best investments. Richmond. You know, I bought it very, very early on. Apparently, the rich don't care about recessions, guys. They still need their luxuries. So it's a defensive stock. So whether the market is going up or down, the luxury goods are still doing very well. Many people, if you know me, you know I started I was a Sasol bursary holder, so I had to go work my bursary back. I'm extremely loyal to Sasol. I started buying Sasol at 22 Rand a share. Sasol went all the way up to 600 Rand a share. Then during the 2020 global thing, my salary was immediately cut by 50% because I was working in a services business, so I didn't have cash. And don't do this now. COVID happened and Sasol went to 25 Rand a share. Did Rochelle not take 100K from her credit card to buy Sasol? Because I'm like, why are they handing me a gift on a platter? And I literally bought 100K, of Sasol, bought 4,000 of the shares, and I sold it at around 200. So I made like a crap load of money. I cannot explain how much money I made just from the COVID crash. But that was me understanding the underlying. So I still have my long-term Sasol shares, but that trade that I made was a risk I was willing to take based on the underlying fundamental principles of the business. I was not willing to. There was a lot of shares that tanked in 2020. Did I take those trades? No, because I did not understand them the way I understand probably 60 businesses of Sasol inside out. Because they literally put me in the Free State for 3 years, guys. I wore a hard hat and what are those shoes? Safety shoes. Walking around in the plant. I understand. I consolidated the Sasol companies from all over the world. I traveled to Iran. I traveled to Australasia. I was in Texas on those oil rigs, etc., etc. So for me, when Sasol went to 25, it just didn't make any sense. So buying it at 25 and selling it at 200, it was enjoyment.
I didn't answer your question of my worst investment, so just quickly was sign off. I bought at 25 Rand, then 40 Rand, then 50 Rand, then 60 Rand, then 70 Rand, then 80 Rand, then 90 Rand. Then it fell to 50 Rand. And then all my smart people said, buy more. I bought more. It didn't make sense. Why is it so low? Bought more. Well, anyway, what's it now? 2 rand or something? So that was my worst.
Thank you for that to the both of you. And so I really like what you said around make your own decisions. Make your own decisions. Don't don't shift or don't delegate your decision making to other people. Of course, the experts have the knowledge, right? They'll give you insights with regards to where the markets are going, so get as much research as you possibly can. But at the end of the day, make your own decisions. Because again, you only know what's at stake. You know how much 5 rand means to you in your life, right? And now, the experts say that we are in uncertain times, right? I heard a bit about, it's a bull market and things are tanking. I'm interested. It's a bear. It's a bear.
The bull is up.
Bear, bull? Maybe clarify that?
So the bull market is, the horns goes up. Bull market, things go up. Bear market, I don't know whether it's the size of bears.
Goes into hibernation.
Bear down. Okay, whatever. So bear market bad, bull market good.
So bull market, horns up, you're going up. Bear market, bad, it's going down. Thanks for that clarification. So we are in a bear market, right? I'm interested to find out, Carly, what's your outlook right now? We're going into, I would imagine it's going to go, right? We're going towards that. What's your investment strategy going into that and keeping that in mind? And I also want to put in that, she made a lot of money when Cecil was
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous fighting my Cecil. So I'll kind of tell you my strategy, but first kind of share a story from my own family. So in 2008, when things went pear-shaped, just before that happened, my mom had inherited some money and she'd never invested before, and she thought this is her time to invest just before this crash. And so she put her money into, what's that pharmaceutical stock? Not Ascendus? Aspen. She put a bunch of her money into Aspen, and this crash happened, and people were freaking out. People were selling, people were stressed, panic selling before, and she decided not to do that. So she held on to her money and she just sort of decided to ride it out. And her money from just that investment into Aspen is worth like 20 times what it was, just because the market had recovered. And the market does this, man. It's always going to do that. That's what it does. It goes up and down. But historically, if you look over the long term, investing has been shown as the best way to grow your wealth over the long term. So you've got to not look at these little ups and downs in the graph, but rather look at the whole graph and the bigger picture. And so my strategy when it comes to investing, and while we're in this bull market, is to really remember the bigger picture. I also know my risk appetite. I have, quite a big portion of my investments are in ETFs, which are lower risk. They're diversified. That gives me a lot of comfort. That helps me sleep at night. But then I take a portion of my investment spend and I put that into high-risk investments because I'm still young. I've got a lot of time to ride the market out. And why not take a little bit of risk? So I sleep at night in this bear market with the comfort of sticking to my guns. I know what my strategy is. I want some low-risk diversified investments, specifically in my TFSA for retirement and my RA. That's really important to me. That's my nest egg. But for some Sasol fun, I also have investments in equities, and I love the US market. I've got investments in the US market, and that provides you exponential growth because you get returns because the currency is stronger than ours. So I've diversified my strategy in that sense, and so I feel comfortable with that. And it's about your individual risk appetite, because you might not sleep well at night, having your money purely in equities. Or you may be just fine with that. So it's really up to you what your strategy is, but I really believe you've got to have a long-term point of view and you've got to stick to your guns. You made those decisions while you were not emotional, you were logical, you put thought into them, stick by your guns, trust that everything's going to work out. And maybe one stock is going to tank, you can have a Steinhoff, but if you diversified and you have good investing principles, you really protect yourself against that risk. You have a lot of other industries, a lot of other companies that can provide you with some protection.
Thanks for that, Carly. And the risk appetite really stands out for me. I think if people were to know what their risk appetite is, they would use their money, so much wiser. If they knew that I'm up here, in terms of risk. And there's a really funny joke that, a friend of mine often tells. He says his mom really likes get-rich schemes, and she always. I'm like, you must show her risk appetite. She must know the type of person she is, so that when someone comes with a new and popping idea, she knows what her proclivity is, right? She knows where she stands, and she can take a step back and evaluate herself versus what's been put on the table, look at her past, and then evaluate, as you're saying, the emotions in that moment, and then make a better decision. You spoke a bit about, TFSAs. TFSA. Anthony, maybe let's double click on that, and how can an investor, a beginner investor, grapple with TFSAs, and how can they use them for their financial freedom?
If anyone in this room does not have a tax-free savings account, which is TFSA, a soul I'm sure would back me up, is you're all mad. It's the only tax benefit this government will ever give you. You can put in R500,000 over your lifetime, 36,000 Rand a year, and you can accumulate as much wealth as you can over your lifetime. So I tell any young person, no matter how much money they have, even if it's just 30 or 40 Rand a week, the cost of not buying one drink or one pack of cigarettes, to invest in a TFSA, in the long run, as we all know, the power of compound, you will end up making a great deal of money. So if at the end of this you have not got a TFSA, run out and get one, because the ANC will give you nothing. But they will give you this tax break. So I've got a TFSA, I'm sure all of us here have. All mine is invested in small to mid caps, because that's what I specialize in. And to go back to something that the panelists mentioned earlier, and what I did about information, do not think, just because you are an average private investor, that you are at a disadvantage to the large investing institutions. In many cases, yes, they are clever, and yes, they have access to enormous amounts of data and information from professional analysts and engagement with corporates. But in many cases, they miss the bigger picture and they miss ideas. And I like to give direct examples. So I've been covering the domestic JSE small to mid-cap sector now for just under 30 years. It is extremely rare for an institutional analyst to cover one sector for such a long period of time. So I've had most of my grey shaved off for a reason. So I'm older than I look. And that gives you a sense of history. And I remember back in 2011, going on a roadshow with a small little school company that was started in Durbanville by a teacher, starting with 9 students in a classroom in a church hall. And that little company became Kura Holdings, the country's largest private education company, with 72,000 learners currently in 230 schools around the country. Dr. Chris van der Merwe and I are still friends nearly 20 years later, and he sold 50% of the company to PSG for 50 million Rand. That stake at one point was worth 10 billion Rand, that stake. It's fallen back then. And on the roadshow, when they listed at 4 Rand, I remember knocking on the door of the country's largest institution, who will remain nameless, because they're my single largest client. And at 4 Rand, I said you can participate in this brand new listing of this amazing company, private education. There's a long growth runway because the state system is failing. There's a growing demand for private education. You've seen more people from previously disadvantaged communities sending their children to school for a better life. It's a great business. At 4 Rand, they literally kicked me out of the door. They threw me out. They came back about 3.5 years later, begging me for shares. I found them a line of shares at 41 Rand 70. They would have bought the shares 3 years earlier at 4 Rand. Another little thing for John to hear on your little quiz. What's the best performing share in the JSE in the last 10 years? Any guesses?
Hands, takers.
I'll push you out of your misery. Most people think it's Naspers, which has had a fantastic run, given its investment in Tencent, the Chinese internet and chat company. That is sort of true. They were number 2. They've risen 1,400% on a 10-year view, which is before the recent market correction. The number 1 performing share is a small little company, which is now valued at about 7 billion Rand, based in Tiger Valley, called Afrinet, up 1,800% in 10 years. A company founded here in Cape Town that sells aggregates, they're now into phosphates and iron ore, up 1,800%, sitting there in Tiger Valley. I was with him yesterday in the Northern Cape. So Daniel's still here. I was covered in red dust yesterday. Showing you that institutions often miss out on the initial embryo ideas because they aren't prepared to take the risk. They would much rather a company develop and show consistent earnings growth and dividend growth, then they'll buy. But if you're an entrepreneur or a smaller investor, be prepared to take a much risk and to invest in smaller companies. Smaller companies can become larger companies. I tell people Anglo-American wasn't a 300 or 400 billion rand business 100 years ago. It was a small little company started by Ernest Oppenheimer. And many of these larger companies were small companies. And if you catch them early, you can actually do quite well. If you can hold that for 1 second. I'm going to bring up my magic file here.
The bag of secrets.
This is a file. This is basically a few months worth. Or you would have killed this. I often try and find companies a lot earlier than most analysts because my job in small to mid caps is kicking them on the doors and understanding why a company is trading where it is and what the potential could be. And for 4 years, I refused to cover a particular stock because the company's development stage was not in an area where I thought my institutional clients would be happy putting your money into that stock. So I didn't cover it. And it was December 2020 when the CEO of that company called me over Christmas, because I always work, I love what I do and I always work. He said, Anthony, why are you not covering my stock? And I said, Steph Morani, because I do not think this company is actually worthy of my time. So he said to me, let me tell you what is currently going on. And he gave me a chapter and verse of a long conversation online. And then he sent me, as a Christmas gift, 20 kilos of information about the company. Sure. So I know more about helium and LNG than most people will learn in a lifetime. And in January, it was January the 14th, 2021, I came out with my recommendation of the year to buy Renogen at 11 Rand 50. So here's my Renogen file. I work in an old-fashioned way. It's a bit battered. There's information in here which you kill for. That presentation's from this morning's all conference. It was not available to anybody else. I had it. So often you as private individuals can actually steal a march on institutions because they are not prepared to invest in these smaller companies because the risk is just too high. Nobody was buying at 11 Rand 50 in January 2021. The stock, as Sol would attest, got to a high of 43, 45 Rand. 43. We're now back to 28. I learned this morning that the same large client of mine who turned me down at Curro at 4 Rand, who then bought at 41.70, did not want to buy did not want to buy Renogen at 11.50 2 years ago. They're now buying at 28 Rand because they now feel comfortable enough in buying that stock. And they have bought 5 million shares in the last couple of weeks. And trust me, given the size of this company, 5 million shares is a drop in the bucket. It's over 100 million Rand. They'll just keep on buying. You have a chance to try and get in early on many of these stocks because institutions often do not want to take a risk of being too early. You can take that risk if you understand what you're doing. So I'll give you the examples right now. Afrimat and Renogen. Stocks that are common to analyze. They're literally, they're quite ubiquitous. The websites are quite great. Management are quite approachable. You would have bought more stocks early on and made multiple times of your money.
Thanks for that, Anthony. And I think keep that bag safe. That's all I'm going to say. Keep that bag safe. That's the bag of secrets. And he's only whipped out just one file from that bag of secrets, so we can only wonder, and it looks very heavy. Thanks for that insight, Anthony. Really highlighting, the importance of not automatically thinking that because big companies are dealing with money, you stand no chance, and they have all the institutional knowledge and all the insights. And I guess, Higgo, then briefly to my question to you, I now want to start. Do I get a financial advisor? Do I start by myself? And what are some of the pros and cons of both of those?
Like Paul said, make money quick. I'm really joking. No, so the topic that's continuously revised is you need to understand what you're investing in. Some people really find a passion in researching shares. I was that guy. I started in grade 6. I told my dad I want to buy a gold coin because I want to put my money in somewhere where it's going to be more in 10 years' time. So said, no, I'd rather look at the stock market. Showed me a bit about it, and I fell in love with it. And since grade 8, I was just that kid in high school, hiding my phone from the teachers, just reading about shares the entire time. So, for example, I loved it. I have a few friends, they love reading, they love researching, and you know, they're doing good at managing their own portfolios. But then I also have friends, they don't have the time, or the appetite, or the motivation to do their own research. So in that case, I'd say, you know, consider a financial advisor. FinMeUp financial advisor just launched, marketing great. Or you can just invest in ETFs. If you really want to invest in the stock market, low risk, if you keep it for the long term, you'll probably be fine. ETFs a great option to consider. The biggest mistake is not starting to invest and just keeping cash in your bank, because inflation is going to destroy you. But also over the long term, we're investing in the long term. We've already seen, you know, the market falling quite dramatically the last few months. So, you know, if you start, great. From there, if you don't know exactly where to invest, diversification. The ETF gives you great diversification. But if you want to do stocks, just make sure you understand what you invest in and that you diversify and that you know your plan. So diversification is great, and ETF is a great option. And if you don't want to do anything yourself, then you can consider financial advisor as well.
Thanks for the answer. And it really, again, and it's a constant theme around know your stuff, do the research, but also know yourself, right? As you're saying, if you're someone that is interested in finding out and getting all the knowledge, then take that route and get as much research as you possibly can. But if you really just want to get someone to do it for you, you can also, you know, and it's not, those are the two extremes, right? There's stuff in between. And as we start wrapping the conversation up, I'm curious to hear from you. So since you started your journey in June 2008, how has, and I think you touched a bit on this earlier, how has financial education changed since you started in June 2008 up until right now?
So the first thing people must know about me is that, unfortunately, I'm a CA. So we tend to overthink things. I honestly believe that people who don't have a financial background in terms of their studies, so you marketers, you music people, you scientists, you know, all of you engineers, etc. If you are not tainted, because I believe CAs are tainted, we overanalyze things, and then also what we do is we tend to think we know things we don't know. We assume that if we see a certain number in the financial statements, it means the same thing in any company. And we ignore what Anthony said, understanding the business and what it does. We think if we spend 100% of our time on the financial statements, we're going to beat the call center person. You are not. You are not. So firstly, I had to unlearn a lot of crap first, because I made mistakes based on my studies, based on my background. I didn't study the businesses. I thought if I just look at the debt to equity, and I look at the return over assets, and I look at the ROIC, and I look at all these things that accountants do when we're studying. I thought if I just do all of that, I'm going to be just cool. But I didn't know what was going to move the share price. I didn't know if I read something in the business day. And also I got the paper. I was very privileged to deliver to my office every morning. I had this business day open, and for like an hour nobody disturbed me. Back in 2008, now it's online, so they just walk into my office whenever they feel like, whether I'm reading the paper or not. But I had to first unlearn a lot of things. Then I needed to reach out to people who were successful in doing this. And finding those people back then, as I said, was very hard. But finding them right now, it's literally taking out my phone. It's taking out my phone and going to the FinMeUp app. It's taking out my phone, going onto Twitter, going onto TikTok, and literally, people, I am honestly amazed at how much three things people share. It doesn't matter if you get Anthony's report 2 or 3 weeks after he's paying clients. Guys, it's the same quality. We are at the same level as those people, who are paying for the information. So there's no excuses anymore. So I literally reached out to people who were investors, who I knew were investors in my physical world, not in the corporate world. I had a CFO who was an art collector, but also a stock market investor, very successful. And I reached out to him, and his name is Gert Goos, and I said, Gert, I need help because I've been doing this now for 2 or 3 years, and I'm not being very. I have made some good investments, and he was like, you're overthinking this. You are literally overthinking it. This is what you start with. And then, guys, ETFs only came out in 2015, hey? So there wasn't even ETFs at that time. We had to go for single stocks or unit trusts. And I don't like unit trusts because I just found them a little bit expensive. So my journey is really, really evolved from the time I started to where I am now. I can say that even though we are in the heart, or maybe at the beginning of a bear market, a recession, this is the best place mentally and in terms of information, quality, quantity that I've ever been in. I never feel lonely. If there's something that I don't know, if I don't understand, I know there's somebody that I can reach out to. And if they don't know, they'll find someone who knows.
Thank you so much, Sol. And really, I love that you've painted the journey and shown us that, what I'm really picking up from that is it's never too late to start, and starting is important, right? And it really has changed, as you're highlighting. There have been some new product offerings in the market since you joined. And I love that you mentioned Gert. You say, this is the person that I know that does this, I'm going to talk to that person. And what then happens is that person connects you to the next person, that person connects you to the next person, and it really opens you up.
Sorry, I just made a mistake. I said ETFs. The TFSA was introduced in 2015. We did have exchange traded funds before that. But the TFSA, guys, if you don't have one, it's the only way we get tax back from this government. It's from the TFSA. Please open one. As boring, I know the younger you are, you want to take higher risk, but you can buy Tesla and crazy Elon, whatever he's going to say next. But please open your TFSA and invest in ETFs, because it gives you some peace of mind that if things go pear-shaped, that you have a little bit of diversification in your portfolio.
Guys, we can't say it enough. The tax-free savings account. Now, do it now. Write it down in your notes and get ready if you don't have one.
And the quiz.
Yes. So we're going to wrap up the conversation, and I can't help but, at the back of my mind, there's a stat that you shared with us earlier on, Higgo, that 50% of South Africans are financially illiterate, and that's a big figure. Share a bit about how we can bridge that gap, because 50%, it means you know it, you don't. You know it, I'm sorry. You know it, not sorry. Like every second person is lost, right? And of course here we've got a unique room, but how do we address this and how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, so that's our 24/7, what's on our mind at FinMeUp, and that's what we're trying to address, and it's not easy. It's probably one of the most difficult things you can take on. So on the education side, education needs to be fun. It needs to be engaging, it needs to be community orientated, it needs to be curated. So that's what we're working on the education side, and then you need to have the execution. On the execution side, we've got trusted partners. So for example, we don't do the insurance ourselves, we don't do the investing platform ourselves. We look for trusted partners, and we basically use the education to build our community, to build trust, build engagement, make it fun, make it cool, make it easy, and then also connect our users to the execution side so that bridge can actually happen. So, to summarize it in a few words, education needs to be curated, there needs to be execution, and there needs to be community. So, if you want to play your part in seeing others reach financial freedom in how that is classified in everyone's own terms, be part of the community. Whatever you learn, give it back. I know my brother, he's also here, he's the bald guy. So he's always taught me this principle of mentorship, is whatever you learn, you need to learn someone else 3 times faster and 3 times more. And then that person needs to teach someone else 3 times faster and 3 times more. And if we have a society where mentorship is really a community-based thing, we can really see a massive difference in our personal lives, but also in our communities and our country. So go make effort to learn something, gather that information, make it your own, and then learn someone else. And make it better, make that person that you learn better than you are. And that's how we're gonna get there.
I want to just add to that, because something Saul said earlier also struck a chord with me. Like when you were younger, these conversations didn't happen at the dinner table, right? There was no table. We are now growing a proper movement of investors. You guys all sitting here, your kids, you are going to be having those conversations at the dinner table. Your kids are going to be learning about stocks at a young age, and that's because of all of these wonderful, the access that online world has brought us, and all these available platforms. That's how we rewrite the narrative as well. We have these conversations at a braai with our mates. It's happening more and more and more. I'll be at a festival somewhere, ordering a beer, and someone's talking about their portfolio, and I'm like, this is magic. This is how we're going to do it. So the world is changing, and I think just from having that be a theme in your household, we're going to see the impact of that in your kids. You're going to open accounts for your kids. You're going to start investing. They're going to start showing you up when they're 12 years old and they're managing their own portfolio. It's going to be epic. We're going to change the world. That's what's going to happen.
I was talking to my Uber driver from my apartment to here. We talked about stocks all the way. He's from Zimbabwe, and he wanted to know, where am I going? So I said, no, I'm going to this event called Money Matters, and I'm going to be talking about finances. And then I said, have you ever invested in stocks? And he's like, no, how do you do that? And I just started talking to him about it, and he was like, so if I put 5,000 rand here, and I put 5,000, and he's like, what if I have 100K? I said, no, have you ever heard about, you must average in, So I'm like, no, you don't put it all down at the same time. You average in. So my Uber driver was cool today. The guy sitting next to me on the plane took my phone number, and because we were talking about stocks all the way here, and he was so interested, and he was literally with Corné Krige sitting on the other side of him, the rugby player, the very famous rugby player. And I was like, we ignored Corné completely, and we were talking about it, because they were coming from a huge sport conference. I don't know, the Laureus or something, the one that has the international sport events. And this is a movement, Kali. This is a movement that cannot be stopped. So it's either we are going to drag you along on this journey. Yeah, we're going to drag you along, because I truly believe that, guys, we've had our differences in this country, and the people of color in this room, our parents achieved political freedom, so that all of us, I'm not saying, the other people's parents didn't fight for political freedom too, but I'm saying we have a duty to our children to achieve economic freedom and financial freedom. Each generation has a duty to the next generation. Sure. So let's make financial freedom and economic freedom our duty. Teach your kids at age-appropriate times. I didn't teach my daughter about stocks when she was 6, but at 10 years old, Madam chose McDonald's. Madam chose Starbucks. Yes, she chose Nike. She had to choose Pepsi, and she had to choose Coke, and I wanted Pepsi. And she was like, no, we're putting Coca-Cola. I only like Coke, mommy. So those stocks are in my portfolio. So whether they do well or not, I am teaching her the importance of ownership that you own something. When we go to McDonald's and you are waiting in the queue too long, you better be grateful, because it means there's customers at your company. So you stand in that queue because your dividend is going to be larger, baby girl. So we wait in the queue. So yeah, for me, it's that thing. This is a movement. And my daughter can't read charts or anything like that, but she knows the importance of hustling, of working for what. If you don't do your chores, you do not get your pocket money. And I don't deduct 10%, 10%, 10%, miss a day you're out for that whole month. Okay? You work for your money. Whatever she invests, I match. I already teaching her the pension fund principle there. When she starts working, the matching. Teach them about the stock market, when they can start seeing green is up and red is down. What does it mean? At age-appropriate times. Steal the money, it will teach them about tax. But teach them age-appropriate financial principles, because the schools are doing nothing for your kids. They are not teaching them the importance of compounding. They are not teaching them budgeting. They are not teaching them anything. My daughter once made the mistake of borrowing some money from somebody. I made her pay back 100% interest and writing an apology letter for making the person wait. She will never do that again. Because she wanted tuck, and I took away her money. She wanted tax shop money, and I took away her allowance. So she borrowed money and didn't give it back. I found out later. So her punishment was an apology letter, 100% interest, and you never do it. She will never do it again. And this is a Christmas story for every Christmas from now on. She wants mommy to stop telling this story of how she borrowed money. But it's a movement, and I truly believe that, even my daughter's friends, when they come over, I'm the mom who teaches them about the stock market and about money. Their parents don't, so there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in our communities, just in the entire schooling system. If somebody has a connection there with Angie, I'm just asking for one module in life orientation, not an entire subject. One module, financial education from grade 8 to grade 12. That's all, nothing else. Because if they can learn Shakespeare, they can learn about interest.
Thank you so much. So, Anthony, any parting words?
Yeah, I think to echo what Sol just said, when I joined the market 30 years ago, it was an old boys club. The average commission in the trade was 1.65%. EasyEquities would be rich if they charged 1.65% now. That's what clients used to pay. And it was an old club where only the large pension funds and the large wealth managers actually played. What I've seen in the evolution of the JSE in the last 30 years, apart from companies disappearing, is, as Sol said, we now have a financial revolution in this country. The democratization of wealth has now spread beyond the rich clubs of 30 years ago. Now everybody, via any trading app like EasyEquities amongst others, can actually have a piece and own something in this country via the stock exchange. And I'm looking at the audience here, and I don't think many of you have children, because if I were to guess your average age, you're probably in your very early to mid-20s. So you probably have small nest eggs hidden away, you're probably looking at putting some cash away, and to echo Sol's comments, if you start now, given the power of compound. Now, in the old days, money used to double every 7 or 9 years. So every £1 you put away now, in 7 or 9 years with dividends, etc., you should be able to double your money. So the money that you put away right now, by the time you have a family, and when your children come along and they want to go to school or varsity, and then when your children have children and your grandparents and those grandchildren want money for a car or education, you will have built for yourself intergenerational wealth from starting now. And the biggest mistake I see when I attend forums like this, and particularly engaging with friends of mine, is they always start too late. I was coming in from the airport yesterday, late at night, and the advert for Coronation was, you're never too late to start. And the sooner you start, the greater the compound effect on the money that you can make, not for yourself, Because in many cases, you're doing it for your family, your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren. So to echo Sol's comments, start at TFSA, start looking at the apps, and people like EasyEquities and what Charles Savage has done, I think has revolutionized the transparency and democracy that we have seen in this country, and long may that continue. It's freed up everybody to hopefully become rich.
Let's do it.
So, my last words. Your network is your net worth, and the fact that all of you are here, you've made an effort to come here. So it's very likely that all of you have a like-minded ambition. So for the rest of the night network, I'd encourage you always build your network, find out about each other if you're going to stay longer. Play the quiz. So there is that giveaway. All you have to do to stand a chance to win a R1,000 EasyEquities voucher is play the quiz on the FinMeUp app, share how much you got. There's a very easy share button, tag FinMeUp, and then tomorrow we'll do a random selection. And also, you can use that Instagram thing, tag us, join the community. If those watching live, if you haven't joined our community and you don't know how, reach out to our team, DM us, do whatever, because this is early days for us, and there's a lot going to happen in the next year. And we are all very excited and thankful for being here once again.
Guys, round of applause for our competition. Do take screenshot and share your quiz results. And the hashtag is hashtag FMU Money Matters, right? Hashtag FMU Money Matters. I just want to, as a quick quiz, we toggled between education and execution. But there's that nice phrase that we had at the beginning. We said education without execution is? Here's one. Education without execution is? Worthless. And execution without education is? Risky. Yeah, and really, it is a movement, and each and every one of us is responsible for educating South Africa. For every second person, if you know things about finance, best believe the person sitting next to you doesn't, because it's 1 in every 2, eh? You must think if it's me.
So there's a question from
I think Danny has a question at the back.
Thank you. I've been convinced to do the quiz. I will do that. Where's the best way to follow each of these? I really enjoyed the panel discussion. Thank you so much. It was awesome. And if we have a moment, I would love to learn from Anthony. So let's say when we do a due diligence on a private company before we invest, it's a very structured process. Let's say, what are the first 5 things your clients look at when you write them a report? Like, as I ask you to move certain things to the front of the report, what are the most important things that they look at first before they say yes or no, or no, they kick you out of the door, or yes, we would consider this, or not? That's only if you have time to answer that, but I would love to just know, with all your experience, what's the most important thing?
That's a great question. One of my key roles for many, many years, Higgo uses the terms networking. I actually detest the word networking. Networking to me means you want something. I like the term relationships. If you build relationships, they stay with you until the end of time. Yep. I came to this country in May 1996 for a reason. I was headhunted from London. And the relationships that I made back then are still the ones that I have today. Growing with my clients, growing with my corporates. And if you're good to them and they're good to you, you have wonderful long-term relationships. And people don't understand the value of long-term relationships. So the work that I do, Daniel, when I analyze a company, is understanding the company, hence a little file that I call a manager. That's just one file covering probably a matter of months. So I do a lot of time understanding the nuts and bolts of the company, how it actually operates, what does it actually do, all the underlying financial metrics that people like Sol discuss, even though she's a CA, and I, like you, I'm just a simple ex-engineer. So us engineers think slightly differently. So when I write a report, I'm a fully independent analyst. Nobody pays me to write this report. My view can be buy, sell, hold. It can be very contentious. And I've been banned by many companies for writing very unkind reports. And nothing improves an analyst's credibility in the institutional market by being banned by a company because you've done something right. So the first thing that I look for is, what's the differentiating factor that perhaps the market has missed? And I love using direct examples. I mentioned earlier the logistics company Grindrod. Now, I've covered Grindrod for over 20 years. And in November 2020, the share price was trading at £3.70. The net asset value was trading at around 12. Now inside Grindrod, it was a ports company, a logistics company. They owned a bank, Grindrod Bank. They had a land operation in Natal. They owned a pet food company. It was a disparate conglomerate masquerading as a supply chain and logistics company. So the market didn't really want to know what was going on because it was a poorly performing business. It was a hodgepodge of things. But they missed the fact that the stock was trading at £3.70, and to break the company up, you get north of £12 back. And then something suddenly changed. The board decided to clean up the business and to exit non-core assets. So they decided to sell many of their underlying underperforming assets, like Grindrod Bank, which went to African Bank for 1.5 billion rand. That concluded a few weeks ago. They sold their pet food business. They sold a lot of their underlying operations. And the market value of Grindrod back when I first wrote that report was 2.8 billion rand. At £3.70. They raised 2.5 billion rand selling off assets. So if you had bought back in the day, you would only have the rump was 300 million, but that 300 million was still making 200 million rand a year in profit. Now the underlying value was just astonishing. And at some point the market will suddenly play catch up and saying, well hang on, they're actually selling off some assets and they're releasing money. And they're buying back shares and doing special dividends. Oh, they're suddenly debt-free. And the share price went from 370, 450, 534, 750 my target, 1150, got to a high in the middle of this year of 11 rand 98. And you could have bought the share for 3 rand 70 2 years ago. And then recently Rembrandt unbundled its stake, and as is always the case with a liquidity event, the share price falls. Because the market thinks, there's too many shares in issue, the price is going to fall. And an analyst like myself says, well, if it's a liquidity event and the market is stupid and they sell the share down, like my dear friend here, it's often an opportunity to buy. You would have bought Grindrod shares a couple of weeks ago on the Rembrandt unbundling at 8 rand 18 and happily have bought millions of shares at 830 to 840. As it stands today, it's about 9 rand 60. Because the market suddenly realized the liquidity event is gone, the performance is still there, the company is now debt-free, has net cash, and is performing extremely well. Why? Because when Transnet goes on strike, industry wants reliable private operators to move their goods from the farm or the factory or the mine to the port. Companies like Grindrod can do that, which means they are well placed going forward to participate in the economy. So these are the type of scenarios that I look for in special situations which are perhaps undervalued on the market because they do not see the bigger long-term picture. Sometimes it takes 2 years for a story to pan out. But 2 years ago, you could have bought at 370. Now you're paying 950, 960. Those are the stories I like to look for. And you'll be surprised how many of them there are out there. My little bag here has got 5 hidden away. And those are the ideas I sell to my institutional clients. We don't often listen. We'll often come back a bit like Kuro. Or we'll buy it now at 41.70 when 4 rand wasn't good enough. You know, one of my clients, as I said earlier, was buying Renogen now at 28. They didn't want to buy it at 11.50 2 years ago. And you'll be surprised how many ideas are out there, and I will say that bear markets are often the best time to grab great value stocks for funds, to buy them, sit back and wait till the market recovers, and then the institutions say, hey, that's looking a bit cheap, we should buy some. But you got it, and then it'll then start to run. So I would use bear markets right now to start building up a nice portfolio of quality companies, and I think in 3 to 5 years' time, you can all buy me a large drink.
So the other question was, will you reach the mentors and these experts? So they are on the FinMeUp app if you want some of their education content, informational content, research, lessons learned, all of that. Or you can follow Anthony Clark, he's known as Small Talk Daily, mostly on Twitter, or you can follow Soul Financial, Soul Ferry on Twitter and Instagram, and Carly.
At Shegal Carly.
Shegal.
It used to be Shugal, then my priorities changed. Shegal now, true story.
So, and I'm sure all of you have questions, right, that you want to ask our panelists. And we're going to have a breakout room now with Sol. When you go through here, by the Specno logo at the back. You'll see there will be a breakout room there. Then her breakout room will shortly be followed by Anthony's breakout room. So all of the questions that you've jotted down, please keep them, and we'll ask them in those breakout rooms. And again, guys, please hashtag FMU Money Matters. Go take some pictures, share on social media, share your quiz results, and just one last thing before we forget. Get yourself a tax-free. If you haven't got it, do it now. Right? Yeah, just one more round of applause for our panelists.